Welcome back to the OnPoint podcast, where we explore the people and strategies shaping the future of medical affairs. Today's guest is Nick Taylor. Nick leads the Innovation Center of Excellence at Gilead Sciences. In this role, Nick has led the deployment of AI solutions across the entire enterprise, including deep diving in medical affairs. He has led self-service AI like Microsoft Copilot and has built generative AI solutions that thousands of employees are using every day. In this episode, we're going to go beyond the hype and the big thinking that's shaping the future of AI in medical affairs and going deep into how we're bridging technical innovation with real-world application. We're going to talk about the security and compliance concerns. We're going to talk about how we need to empower teams across the organization to use AI with confidence. So if you're ready to move from AI curious to AI capable, make sure you tune into this episode. Welcome to OnPoint, the Medical Excellence podcast, where we talk to pharma leaders about how to build highly effective medical affairs organizations. So Nick, welcome.
Thank you, Scott. It's a very kind intro, and I appreciate it.
Man, it's all true. So, I mean, from where I sit, this happened overnight, but for you, I'm sure it was a bit of a journey. You want to just tell us a little bit about like how this whole thing started at Gilead and how you got involved?
Yeah. Well, a lot of it was luck, right? And being in the right place at the right time, with the right mindset. I actually started at Gilead in IT architecture. I was the one of the architects for our biologics division, and it was about that time we had my boss at that time left to take another opportunity, but we had a new head of enterprise architecture who came in, and he was looking for someone to lead that innovation function. He's in California, but he came out to Raleigh and we just started chatting, and he said, I think you're the right guy for what we're trying to do. He said, we're looking at Microsoft Copilot. We're a Microsoft Copilot shop. And he's like, one of the first things that I think I want you to do is to lead that pilot, do an evaluation. So yeah, I was all in on that, right? This was what, 2023. So Gen AI for me, it was already a part of how I was thinking, how I was working with different tools. And so to have the internal tool, and I knew what it was capable of, I really took to it from an intrinsic sort of position. I just wanted to help people and see how it works, right? So I ran a 300-person pilot. It was about 100 people from IT to kind of get their arms around it. I sent out a survey to 14, 15 different business units, asking them to give us 10 people each to be a part of this pilot. Ran it for a few months. Got really good feedback. And then that's where the blockers started and had to keep pushing through them. That was in 2024. But I saw a lot of benefits, quick wins, things that would say 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there. And then as the product matured, as I got better with it, but especially as the product matured, I started seeing a whole lot more potential. And that's where I started building.
That's fantastic. Let's break that into two parts. Let's first start with, because it sounded like you ran into some barriers. We'll get into those, but let's start with what made you excited? What made it worth plowing through those barriers and getting to where you are today?
Well, the benefits of having that second, third pair of eyes, viewpoints, perspectives always helps me. Like, I just feel like I'm ignorant about so many things, and I ask a lot of questions of a lot of experts, and you can't trust Gen AI 100%, but it can give you good questions on which to maybe rebase your propositions. It's, hey, give me some questions I might not think about from the perspective of this cloud architect or something. And so just to get that larger viewpoint and world and connection to my job and who I was talking to on a daily basis really helped me as an individual grow, right? From a Copilot perspective, it was so low friction. Where a Microsoft Shop, I just felt like the integrations with, hey, what are my emails or the search, even those things were giving me benefits. I didn't have to remember the name of a file. I could just say, where's that file that Scott shared with me that we talked about X, right? And I mean, that was a huge benefit for me.
Absolutely.
There was, yeah, it was great. It was great.
I do find that some of the, as you were saying, some of the funniest, interesting moments is not like this huge win, right? It's not like this huge, like, change to the organization. It's these little things that it helps me do that takes me 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there. All of a sudden, my day is so much more productive.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. And I like to break them up into those things. And when I'm training people, I break them up into those types of categories as well. It's small, medium, large wins.
Yeah.
Things that people might not think about. Translations. We're a global company. There's a lot of people with English as a second language. And having that capability, just, hey, check my grammar on this, comes away with a lot more confidence, a lot more clarity from people. And I don't know if a lot of people capture that in their ROI calculations,
Right.
that confidence.
Yeah.
So,
Very good.
yeah, it's great. The other things at that time, right? At the same time I was doing the Copilot evaluation, they also launched a product, brand new product. They actually renamed it from Power Virtual Agents. It was called Copilot Studio. And so started building with that. And I tell you about Genie and all that kind of stuff if you're interested.
Tell us. Tell us what
yeah.
you built.
Yeah. So I just started with it for kind of two reasons. One, it was an interesting platform to build little agents very quickly. And I saw some potential there, but then also a need. So having Microsoft 365 Copilot is really nice because it's integrated with your work data, and I can find a lot of stuff. But we have multiple different systems all across the organization that people have to access, regardless of their role, right? So we have like a Workday or a ServiceNow, and here's my tickets. What's my vacation balance? What are my policies? All these things are scattered around, and I just felt like that platform had potential to hook up those things. So started building this Gilead enterprise navigation and information engine, right, which I call Genie.
Nice.
Got a team. That was the most important thing because that's me starting a lot of these things from ideas. Got a team of experts who actually volunteered to work on Genie, and they did the work. But now it's launched, right? It was launched to almost 30,000 people. People are using it. Got some good feedback today from a random scientist saying, "Hey, this AI is great. Where do I find that tool?" I was like, "Been pinned on your teams for a while. Go try it out."
Right. Very cool. So you've done everything from use this to find an email or find a file on your computer to deploying an agent that 30,000 people have access to. What were some of the barriers that you mentioned that you ran into along the way?
Yeah. Well, obviously security and compliant. A lot of questions, new technology, you have to answer it. Microsoft can say a lot of stuff. Any vendor can say a lot of stuff, but we had to really dive into the nitty gritty, working with my legal business partners, working with IT security. It took a while, especially with this new technology coming from a guy tucked off in the corner in innovation, right? And not from the top. It was more of, hey, this is real. This is coming. You're not going to stop this AI. We should probably start putting some more focus on it. So really understanding, working with Microsoft, working with these experts to really be able to describe the safeguards, really understand the compliance posture. Working with our SharePoint team, because Copilot can find anything. It's an exceptional search. So if you're using it, you can find documents that maybe you're not supposed to because there was oversharing. So we did a whole bunch of that, going through, doing audits on SharePoint sites, really just cleaning up the way data is supposed to be organized, protected, internal. So we're in a whole lot better place than we were a year and a half ago. And a lot of that was forced upon a lot of teams because
Yeah.
Copilot was so powerful at finding these things.
And so just
Yep.
for people who don't know, the clarity on that, right, is that SharePoint already has security and you can share, and Copilot respects that security. But a
Yes.
lot of teams, it sounds like, might have just said, make this open to everybody. They'll just never find it. But now it's so easy to find that right, it wasn't something new with AI. AI just made it more relevant.
Yeah. Because it did a very deep indexed search of all of your stuff. It makes it really useful. But it does bring that to the forefront, right? That your hygiene may or may not be where it was. And that was a big effort. And I felt like that made a big impact for Gilead, whether or not they knew it because we couldn't find things before. I mean, we're in a much better place through that. So kind of the ripple effects from this entire push, something to be proud of. And a lot of people are in, right? They're in. We're looking at expanding things and people are learning and you're leading things, right, Scott? It's great.
It is fun. As you think back to the biggest challenges, what were the biggest misconceptions? Like legal, security, compliance might have assumed certain things that as you started to explore with Microsoft, you were able to relieve their concerns. What are some of the ones that people might run into as they're deploying this?
Yeah, and a lot of it, of what I'm about to talk about, I think comes from new terminology, believe it or not. There's even recently, somebody said, I heard that Copilot ingests all of our data and uses it in their model, right?
Yeah.
Misconception there is like the model doesn't ingest anything. This is a search that's inside of our tenant. It has no access to anything that Outlook or OneDrive, like it has no access to things that you don't already have access to as a user. So when we say ingest, I had to kind of explain what that actually meant. Model privacy, not using models that are training on our data. And that's not just Microsoft. I'm working across multiple different platforms and vendors and making sure that two things. Our data is our data, right? Customer data. Meaning that the inputs are not used to train anything, like it doesn't leave Gilead and train another model. And then the outputs are ours as well, either copyright protection or just we own the outputs outright. So making sure of those two things was very important. And we had a lot of very detailed contract negotiations to make sure that that was the case. And so we're in a good spot there, that our inputs are safe and our outputs are safe. And I don't think a lot of people thought about that.
Yeah.
And the difference between the tools we recommended and the tools we are building versus what they hear about ChatGPT, that or any public model. They're taking your data, right? We wanted to
feeling it. Yeah.
Yeah, we wanted to be safe from the beginning. So that was big. A lot of education up and down and across the organization. That's kind of what I took upon myself for a long time. And now a lot of people are joined. So that's great.
Right. Well, it's been really fun the last year watching medical affairs get involved and get excited and now become pretty capable in the tool. And we've built dozens of agents that are working right now. And it's been fun to see them go through that transition. And one of the things that you and I had shared with the medical affairs team, and I know you've shared with others, is this kind of maturity framework to go through. And what I thought would be really helpful for people that are listening to this is to kind of learn those 4 levels of how to get good at AI and then how to get your teams good. So just for everybody, the first level is what we were calling personal AI, individual tools like if you have Copilot deployed in your organization or a ChatGPT model, whatever your personal productivity tool is. The second level is how to then bring that to a team that can work on it together through prompt libraries, no code type of agents. And then how is that different than what you might deploy across your organization for 30,000 people, as you said, to use something? And then finally, where does it cross into external facing, highly regulated use cases, external facing tools? So I think that a lot of times when somebody hears AI, they kind of just smash all those things together.
Mhm.
So let's just drill into one. Let's start with personal AI. And what I've always liked, Nick, is that you've always practiced what you preach, right? You've shown up and you use the tools and you are just showing everybody here's what I use it for. Here's how I'm using it. Tell me what you do. So why do you do that? Why is hands-on practice so important to you?
Yeah, absolutely. Practice what you preach, or dog food, eat your own dog food kind of thing. It's it's so important to me to understand the limitations of these things, right? For the first, since December 22, when I was one of those first users of ChatGPT, like in those early models, it was the number one question I asked this thing constantly was, "Are you sure?" If you looked at my prompts and said, "What does Nick has to say?" "Are you sure?" is number one, because I did not trust it and I didn't know how it thought. So that was an inherent curiosity as to how these things work. But just using it and understanding those limitations, understanding those benefits, it came from using it. I can't watch a video and say, I know how this thing's going to
Mm,
respond. Understanding that prompts are important, they're very important, but there's also a conversational nature to this thing. You can always take the conversation in a different way and say, no, I want that more professional, or no, use this source instead of that source. To this viewpoint. Those things are very they're very personal. I have personal assistants or a personal board of advisors, board of directors, really, that I
Tell
use.
everybody what you mean, because I love your personal board of advisors. Tell them what you
Yeah,
mean.
yeah, I love them because they do give me the perspective that I kind of talked about early. I give these little agents, these Copilot agents, which for your listeners that use ChatGPT, they're custom GPTs or gems is what they're called in Gemini, right? And I give them a certain knowledge. I give them custom instructions. I give them a persona. I give them a role that this is what you do. Early on, I had Socrates bot, right? And he would talk me through the Socratic method, right? It was pretty cool. But now I have things like a questioner bot, which I love. It's very simple, very elegant, in my opinion. I'll give it something, and what it does is it just tries to find blind spots. It asks 10 decision changing questions to look at things like compliance or risk, or am I making an assumption? Or it says, hey, in this document, you don't provide evidence. So it asks those kinds of questions. I have one that I call consultant that uses the Mises pyramid principle. It exists to only make decks and talk to executives, which I talk plain Scott, right? So like it's nice to put some polish on it. And that's another agent. Cloud advisor for architecture, security advisor for IT. The thing here, and I think this might go into the team section too, is, it, but it is very personal. It is, if you want something from me, right, Scott, you're an expert, right? And if you are looking for a deliverable from me and I'm new or I don't understand everything, and I give you a deliverable, you could redline it for days and send them back. And then I have to go do all that rework and then send it back. And there's cycles that are being spent by using these agents as like an assistant that has that perspective or can give me those questions that you might ask. I can put in a little bit more time and give you a deliverable that maybe has 5 red lines instead of 50 red lines.
Yeah.
Your time is not being wasted and my time's not being wasted because I put in that little effort, but it was ignorance that was keeping me from that, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I've seen that actually come to fruition quite a lot, is just
Mm.
kind of letting your not wasting your time on some of the basics that I should have known, or maybe I shouldn't, but you still are going to have to get them anyway. And then you
Yeah.
can, your expertise, right? Because you're the expert.
It's interesting, right? Because one of the, I don't know if the word is biases, but one of the practices I see across every single agent that or tool that I've used, Claude, ChatGPT, Copilot, is it seems very eager to please you.
Yeah.
And so it seems to bias itself towards, oh, yeah, whatever you said, yeah, that must be right.
Yeah.
Right. And so I love that you built in a questioning agent that said, okay, thanks. I feel good about myself, but now challenge me, think with me, push me back, right? Help me come up with better answers. And then it does if you give it permission to.
Yeah, absolutely. I put it in the custom instructions at the bot level to tell it not to do those things, right? I say, don't use those M dashes that you love to do. Don't use emojis, and don't be a sycophant, right? And it sticks to those instructions okay, but usually I get what I need quicker because I tell it what to do up front, and then it just kind of uses those instructions. But experimenting relentlessly on these things right now, if there's something I do more than 3 times, right? Some of the automation or RPA nerds out there might understand this, but it's like, why don't I automate this Excel thing? Why don't I make this Excel macro? I do that now with a lot of these agents. I'm just like, help me. I did one for my self-reflection, right? Here at Gilead, right? But it didn't write this self-reflection. What it did is help me find evidence through my things as to what I did. What did I work on? What were my milestones that maybe I wasn't that good at keeping a notebook, right? It looked through and it said, these are the major things you got that you did this year. So like an evidence gathering agent. It was very cool.
Very cool. As I think about personal use of the AI platforms, there's a couple of things that I think that we've seen as we work with teams that are kind of like these basics, right? Like there's 2 or 3 things, whether it's how to craft a right prompt, how to maybe use memory, and then perhaps custom instructions. Let's maybe just share with everybody kind of what these superpowers look like and how it can change you from using it like it's Google. And you, as you said, you go back and forth with it, right? You ask it something and it gets it 30% right. And then you ask it that question and it gets 50%. Then you keep working in it. And eventually you go, wow, okay, I got it to 90%. How can I have gotten there faster the first time?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Well, there is a lot of, there is still experimentation. I'm using Copilot a lot to help me with my prompts. I say, this is what I'm trying to do. Could you make this prompt better? But a lot of times I'll work on something and get to that answer 90%, but then I'll just tell it. I'll say, hey, look through this conversation. Look at this output that I'm happy with. How did we do it? Give me a prompt that I can give you next time to pick up where we left off or to get that output the first time. And if that prompt is good enough, right, I can either save that prompt or say, make me custom instructions for a bot that can do this, right? It's very meta, dude. It's like using the thing to use the thing, but it's uncanny, right? But it is useful because it knows so much. Knows, right? It has access to so much, it's been trained on so much. So to give it that prompt kind of drops a lot of that off of what it's going to computing and try to compare against. So it focuses it. If you focus it, it'll be like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to put my medical affairs hat on. I don't need to know about the capital of this country over here. Right.
Yeah. So you've used the term custom instructions, or sometimes somebody might hear of it as a master prompt a few times. The way that I love just to tell everybody kind of how I think of it, and then if you can maybe teach people what a good one looks like. Right. When I think about these tools that have 1,000 hats on, right, and they are great at 1,000 different things, it's going to try to guess what hat you wanted to wear.
Yes.
And like sometimes, like even my wife will come and say something, and I have to go, okay, am I the listener that's just here to, or am I the consultant who can fix this? Or like, whoa, hold on. And very quickly, if you put on the wrong hat, right?
I love that. Yes.
You have to tell Copilot or ChatGPT what hat you want it to wear, or else it's going to guess, and it could guess wrong. So tell us what like a good prompt looks like that you might put into custom instructions so that it knows who you are, what you do, what you want out of it.
Yeah, definitely. So there's kind of 2 things there. I think so. Custom instructions for like the bot itself. Okay, so you can go and do system instructions in GPT, or you can do system instructions in Copilot. And the way I do that is really more of like you're a well-reasoned colleague and you talk this kind of way and you structure everything and you put the bottom line up front. And so if I ask a general question to a Copilot, it always structures things in the way that I understand them from as me. I'm like, okay, this is a good answer. Because it will randomly say, oh, today I'm going to do bullet points. Today I'm going to do long narratives, right? So I wanted to always do that. If you're going to do prompting and custom instructions, it's similar to that. If I'm doing a briefing agent, I do want these tables, or I do want these bullet points. So I tell it that. I'd say that is the format. Kind of a format that I've stolen from Microsoft. I like it. It's gone through some iterations, but it really is a prompt is like a goal, context, source, and expectations. That's a good way to do it. GCSE. So I need a briefing for my boss. That's my goal, right? The context is it's for the Genie project over the last 6 months. That's the source, or excuse me, the context. The source is look through all my meeting notes, emails, and chats for the last 6 months. And then the expectations are, I need 4 key bullet points and then action item. So I give it those expectations of that format. When you're going a next step with that GCSE, you can give it that role. So that's what all my agents are different roles. Like you're my briefing agent. You're my innovation evaluator. A lot of innovations given to my group, a lot of ideas. I asked them to put them in the lean canvas format. So what this does is it really breaks down the strength of the argument for each one of those boxes on that lean canvas. And then I actually gave it to my users. Instead of just me using it to evaluate, you can ask that bot, hey, where are the weak spots? How can I strengthen that kind of thing? But yeah, the goal, source, context, expectations. That's a good way to do it.
Awesome.
But the role has changed things, man.
Yeah, it's amazing. People will tell me I hate it. It's not useful. I spend more time editing than it's worth. And then I said, well, just tell me a little bit about how you want to talk and what do you want to sound like?
No.
Even like show me the best 3 emails you've ever sent, like in the last month, and just paste them in and say, write like this.
Yes, absolutely. Give it instructions. Give it absolute writing samples. And I did forget that. I'm glad you said that. I do have writing samples inside of each one of those things and in my custom instructions. This is what it looks like. This is what it sounds like. And it gets close, right? I mean, 70% there. I don't never know what I know. I know that, but I use it the way I get enough out of it, right?
Guys, if you're listening to this, this is gold right here. And when you put these 2 or 3 things in place, right, you give it a good prompt, use your system instructions, tell it how you want it to be, who you want it to be, how you want it to act, and then use these projects or kind of these groups with prompt instructions, like you're really going to change the way that you can get things out of these tools. Now, let's take it to the next level now. So you've practiced, you've been using it yourself, and now teams start to say, well, we want shared tools, and I want to be able to share these prompts with each other. I want to find ways of reducing the burden on my team. So I know that we've worked with a couple of teams. Let's just share some examples of some medical affairs specific kind of team level use cases that they've used Copilot for.
So when you and I did that workshop together, right? We started it the right way. You started it the right way, which is not, I want to shove AI into everything. We can't do that. You will fail, and it's irritating to the end user. It's, let's think about what you do, right? Let's see where we can automate, and see what we can do, right? And you walked them through. You said, what kinds of questions do you ask somebody for? Let's say, what was it? The business requirements document. I think is one thing we wanted to to automate is business requirements gathering. And so we put it together. We put together those custom instructions. We worked as a team to say, oh, okay, actually, I want it to do this or that. Let's edit these instructions. And we tried it out. And that's part of what I do, right? Scott is like, I know I don't know anything, but I'm always like, hey, let's try it, right? And
Yeah.
I just have to work pretty fast at it. So we started working on it together. And when we tested it out, it seemed like the crowd went wild, right? Like they loved what happened because of using that AI. The capability of the AI rather than a form is that it understood when we said this system, right? It said, oh, okay, well, let me dig one step deeper and say, what exactly field are you looking for in this configuration, right? Like it's like a more intelligent form for this business requirements doc. And then I took it a step further and I said, okay, now make me a functional requirements doc based on this system. And so they had 2 documents right there at the end that they could use. That was useful, right? It was very, very useful. And you can give it to your users and they can just answer the questions, right? It saves a lot of time. Another one somebody came back to me with was training documents. It was very cool. What they wanted is just a Q&A bot. They have a a Word document with screenshots of some system. And usually they just give them that training document, but it's very, very long and people have to control F or scroll to find what they wanted. But we turned it into an agent and it was pretty cool. You can just ask the question. It uses that as the source material. And then we wrote some custom code in there, or at least Copilot wrote the code and I pasted it in. And what it'll do is it actually read it, give you the answer, and then pull the screenshot out of the document and give it to you in the chat. Hey, this is exactly what you're looking for. That was a fun one. That was an interesting one to make.
Super cool.
It's lower the friction, you know?
Yeah.
And then you can share that with your whole team as a shared agent. Right.
Yeah. Tell me, how do you protect Copilot from becoming the next SharePoint, where there's 7,000 SharePoint sites and nobody can find anything and everybody can start one on a whim? And that then led to 20,000 Teams chat and nobody can ever find the community. Like, doesn't this have the potential? Like, if everybody can just create agents, all of a sudden there's 1,000 of them and 990 of them aren't very good.
Oh yeah, it can get nuts, man. It has the potential, very, very much so, to get crazy. For the things that Copilot at least has rolled out, like there are governance things where you can share with the whole organization, or only share with certain people, or just share with yourself. Right now, we're talking about which level of autonomy or governance do we want to have, because there could be a proliferation of a bunch of bad agents. But what we have as well is, at least in this system that we're using, our like my agents that I've built and that are shared with me, and then you have some that were built by Microsoft, and then you have things that were built by your org. And then we're putting together that governance to say this individual development plan agent that helps do whatever it is. That one's actually built by HR. This one is the one that we actually have curated knowledge, right? So to have official apps. So in there, we're going to have the Genie bot is going to be not just a Teams app. It's going to be an agent for Copilot. Say, at Genie, what's my vacation balance? And then just go back to Copilot and say, write me an email to my boss asking for those days off.
Yeah.
To have them actually endorsed. And so when you're talking about challenges as well, right? Buy-in from the top. Getting people from the top to understand that this is not just AI is not going anywhere, but like Copilot is something we can build on. We have it, large user base, getting people to see things. And that's why I build them. I build them first. I use them first, and then I show it. And I'm very transparent about what can be done. And through that, people all get excited. And they're like, well, I want to build them. I want to build them in the governance of just proliferation. Yeah. We know our data is safe. I know our data is safe. It's more of It's a useful tool for me. Is it a useful tool for my team? I don't know. Can I share it with everybody? It's a question somewhat. I love democratization, but I do know what you mean. I do know what you mean.
Yeah, I guess my default right now is to try to overcome that through education versus limitation, right?
Mhm.
This tool is so non-tech, like you don't need a technical background. You have to be a really good communicator, and the
Yes.
people who know what they're trying to do probably can communicate it better than somebody trying to extract it out of them. And so if we can educate and limit later, I think is probably the better direction.
I think so too, and that's the path that I've said. Let's see what happens. Right? Let's
Right.
see what happens. Not like it's going to be not safe, right? It's just
Yeah.
more like let's see what happens. And if you're using these agents, it's no extra cost, and it's just a fun time to experiment. And but not for nothing, there's a lot of people who see what I do, and it's kind of like a magic show somewhat, and they're just like, "Can't you just build me an agent for me, right? Can't you just build one
Right.
like for me, right?" Some people want to experiment, some people want to tailor, and then some people are just like,
Yeah.
"Do we have a team that could just make these things that
You're
are great?" So I see for adoption and team and all what you're talking about, there are champions. There are innovation champions. There are Copilot Center of Excellence, like people who should be in that kind of thing because they can understand the tool. We could talk about just nerdy stuff, and then like they can bring it back and say, "Hey, this is how I would use this feature for my team." It's been a very grassroots kind of
Yeah.
thing. How do you use the internet? All right. How do you use the internet? How do you use Google? Right. It's
Right.
more different. It's that different in my mind.
That. So let's actually zoom in on that line for a sec, right? So you've got the self-service where anybody can use the tool themselves. They can even save prompts. They can create agents and share them. Where is the line between what an individual should be building for themselves and what you might want to get a engineer or a product team involved in
Mhm.
to build something more enterprise ready?
Yeah. Right now it has a lot to do with the scope and scale of the data sources, how you're going to be using them. Is it regulated or validated? We can't use the AI for this according to this regulation or validation or GXP rule. You can't use it for everything. Not just we should never copy and paste things out of it.
Mm.
But there are those kinds of concerns that we think about. When I get a use case and it's like, "Hey, I wanted to do this," it's mainly for myself. That's usually a slam dunk. But then they're like, "Oh, I want to integrate with this enterprise system and that enterprise system." Well, now we absolutely need architecture review. We need security. We
Mm.
need developers to make sure that that connection is secure. Um, I understand what they're talking about. Be great to have data free for everybody, but that's
Yeah.
not how it works, right? How I that's the practical reality of it is when we start talking about data integrations and
Mm.
and teams that are scientists, right? They're scientists. They just want to get science done, right? IT can come in there and help them design it, best practices, first principles, just listening to business requirements, functional requirements, and be like, okay, cool, thanks. And then I go over here and I build it, right? They don't care what it is, right? They don't care
Right.
if it's Pilot or Amazon or whatever. They just will use this tool to help them do their job fast. So by kind of centralizing a lot of the expertise in IT, I think is a smart way of us doing it from a governance perspective. I don't know if I'm answering your question on that
Yeah.
one. It's
Have you run into any? I mean, you're one guy.
I
Um,
am.
have you run have you run into capacity concerns where everybody is trying to adopt this so quickly and they want all this help? How do you handle that in a global organization?
Well, I'm getting a lot more support now that they're like, hey, Nick knows what he's talking about. Let's get some people in. So I get more volunteers, people who are those champions in their orgs. No real official team, but it is the community building,
Mhm.
and so that helps. I've done a lot of train the trainer. sorts of stuff. But from the build perspective, there is a large focus on AI enablement and how to do it, foundational AI, and then where do we strategically invest in really high priority things. There's a lot of conversations on that. A lot of teams that want to be involved. We do have a very strong strategic perspective on how to enable AI across Gilead, and it's an exciting time to be here. So I don't really have a problem getting people who want to work on things. It's just getting them to work on them in the way that I do it is a little different, but
Yeah. So
it's
if
fun.
somebody was going to come to you and, let's say there's a medical director or somebody in medical excellence, and they're like, "Hey, I've got this idea for I want to use Copilot for,"
Mhm.
what should they come having thought of? Like, what makes a really good use case?
Yeah. So the process of what's a repeatable process. I like looking at those. I like doing business process mapping really of where does this data flow and what kinds of questions are asked of this data, or like, can I make an SOP? And I'm like, yeah, you can make an SOP in 5 seconds, right?
Yeah.
And those are easy questions, right? How do I use it to do SOPs? Um, Instead of the ideal case, it's kind of like, this is how I've done it. Like, I do talk to them and I'm like, okay, let's try it in Copilot. If there's something that just regular Copilot can't do, let's see if we can do it in a low code, no code kind of way. And then if that doesn't work, let's build it like in a real development effort, right? Throughout that conversation, there are also vendors pinging everybody all the time, but I want to use what we have. It's smarter from a governance and easier from a governance and compliance perspective. But listening to their process, looking at what I've done before and how I've done it, testing it, it takes no time to test some of this stuff, like no
Yeah.
time. I'm not like,
Yeah.
okay, I can roll that out now. I could roll that out immediately. So let's move over here because I think we can try it here.
Mm.
And rapid prototyping. That's what my innovation team does is rapid prototype, and I think
Yeah.
we've gotten very good at it using the tools. So
Very
that,
cool.
hey, what can we do about this? All right, well, let's put something together in 2 weeks, maybe.
Yeah. That's awesome. Nick, I would love your thoughts on, you mentioned vendors. Vendors are always coming in, and Viva will have their AI, and all of our publication systems are getting AI built into it, and our project management tools have AI built into them. What's your perspective on centralizing AI into one platform like Microsoft versus these purpose built, like I'm in Asana and Asana already has AI capabilities. Should I just use it? Or I'm in Viva and it already has it. Should I just use it? Where do you stand on that?
From my perspective, 100% whatever works best for the user in a safe and compliant kind of way. That's my number one priority is what works best for the user. There are things like cost versus, can I get 85% of what we need for 30% of the money? That's a conversation with the business, right? Is that 15% the most crucial 15%, or is that fine, right? While we wait for maturity of whatever platform. And so I'm involved in a lot of RFPs. It's not like I shut them down, right?
Yeah.
Immediately. I do want to say, can we build it? What's the support structure going to be? What's the licensing model support structure? Is that hard to build? Is it something as easy as like Asana, for instance, right? Like if they have a first party Copilot connector, I'd love to just turn it on in Copilot because
Right.
it is easier to have things in that one domain. Same thing with like Atlassian products, right? If we can make a Copilot agent and all you're doing is asking what's the status of this ticket, right? Why
Yeah.
not do it in one platform? But if you spend all of your time inside of an Atlassian product or Jira, and you never go over to Copilot, right? Still a useful
Right.
thing to have. So
Yeah.
we take a
Especially
very holistic.
given,
Yeah.
especially given the low investment it takes to connect these things now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And it security compliance, enterprise contracts to make sure our inputs and outputs are safe, as we said before, right? Having all those protections. Those things they all add to the calculus of this, right?
Yeah.
But as we build and we can reuse, right? Reuse things. Oh, we've already built a connector for this group. Let's see if we could just use that same connector and put it into something else. It's fun, right? It's fun.
Yeah.
I like government. Dude, I don't know what I don't know what to tell you, but there are some things that I've absolutely said, no, this is slam dunk. We should probably go with that vendor. This would be too much. This would be too much for us to handle. We're not a tech company, right? We're a pharma company, right? It's just that the tools that are out there now make it so daggone easy to try to make something that's useful.
Very cool. So let's end with one more question. I used to say picture 10 years from now, but I mean, just like 3 years from now, right? Like, how is medical affairs, how is pharma going to be working differently as a result of these innovations?
Yeah. There are things that I want to guard against versus things that I think technology might be capable of doing. We have a lot of AI literacy things out there. I think one thing that I have to say on your platform here is guarding against outsourcing thought. I don't want people to outsource their thinking. I don't want them to lose their edge when using these tools because they sound right. I think it's the Gelman. I forgot what it is, but one thing about these large language models a lot of times is they sound like they know exactly what they're talking about until you ask it something you know about. And then you're like, oh, they're right. So what I'm saying is don't outsource thought. Don't lose your edge. Use them as something to sharpen your knowledge and get it to ask questions. Those kind of things. So that's the first thing is I don't want that to happen. Right. It could happen.
Yeah.
The second thing is I think there are going to be a lot more autonomous actions taken through what they call agentic AI. It's getting a lot of buzz, and I think it could really help in a lot of things. We just have to put the human in the loop, as they say, in the correct places. Because you can get some input in, it could read it, flag some issues, use another agent that has been fine-tuned to write in a certain way, use another agent that can go out and check the regulations and then flag issues, and then use another agent that will fix those issues. And then you get something at the end and you're like, okay, wow, is this good or bad? But you're going to have to be a Bert to know, is it good or bad, right? So I think those systems are going to be there, but we have to make sure that the people who are reviewing, editing, asking the questions, designing the bots, all of those things, they have to be experts. Like to up-level ourselves to deal with all the lower level stuff being taken care of a lot of machines.
Yeah, I think that I absolutely love that. As I talk to everybody from chief medical officers to MSLs, I've been trying to reinforce that you can't expect and you shouldn't want AI to replace your expertise. You should use it so that you have more opportunity to use that expertise.
Oh yeah, yeah, yes. Instead of you become more of an editor, you become more of a manager, you become more of an overseer of a team of little meaning interns that have no idea what you do for a living.
That's
That's
right.
how I about them a lot, right?
They don't know who you are, what you do, what you like, why you do it, why you're even asking.
I have no idea, right? So providing that context and the prompting, building these little agents, like they help get you something better, but they're not going to replace your expertise. I am very confident of that. They can't reason. They don't understand why they say things. They can't self-reflect, right? They're just very, very fancy calculators that are sound remarkably human.
Right.
Yeah. So it's fun to play with across different platforms, not just Copilot. Copilot's been nice because you look at the bell curve is what I think. There's a bell curve of AI literacy, AI understanding, fear of AI. people who are like, I don't even know how to talk to it. I don't know how to do Google search. And so like when I talk to them, I just want them to feel comfortable just asking questions. Like I ask it stupid stuff all the time, just dumb, just it's that right all the time. But you look at this bell curve and it's okay, beginners all the way to super experts. And I think that the bell curve of that understanding shifted very far to the left of expertise, meaning there's a lot of the newbies. It's a new way of thinking, a mindset shift, how to get the most out of this stuff. So I try to support the whole spectrum. I'm working on some really cool stuff, but I think trying to get to that bell curve is what I care about as a person, a colleague, right? An employee. I want people to feel comfortable with this stuff. So I care about people. That's where I come from.
I'm going to ask you a question that may or may not end up in the final edits here. But you're recently a father.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Love it.
Thank you.
Should schools be teaching AI or avoiding AI?
Teaching it how to use it. Same way I'm doing it. I don't know if Scott, I was a 7th grade science teacher. Yes, I was a 7th grade science teacher before I changed careers and went to biotech and things. I think it's a remarkable teaching tool if you really have those principles of not giving up your curiosity and using it as a tool. I don't know if everybody feels that way. I don't know if they do. But growing up, I was told don't trust anything on the internet, and now everybody trusts everything they read on the internet. So I don't know.
We're also told not to meet people on the internet or accept rides from strangers, but we use Uber.
Yes, we do. So it's. I think we need to absolutely teach critical thinking alongside using this AI stuff because they make mistakes all the time. Where the data comes from, just critically think. I'm telling you, man. Going back to the very beginning, are you sure? Was my number one question.
Love it.
Things. And I'm taking that approach towards these tools. You can get a lot out of them, but you got to use them right.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on everything that you've done so far. It's just personal experience at Gilead. You've really set the path, and there's a lot of folks that are just getting started, and they are curious, they're excited, and they're very grateful for the path that you've laid for them. So congratulations. Thank you for sharing that. And I hope it's okay. Can we put your LinkedIn information in the show notes so people can follow your story?
Sure. That would be great. And yeah, it's an exciting time to be where I am. It's a great opportunity to work with people like you, Scott, and you specifically. So thank you for this opportunity and running workshops with me, man. We're doing great.
Ryan. Yeah. Well, I'm sure there's many more to come.
Great. Well, thanks a lot, man.
Thank you.